To me, the Distant Horizons mod for Minecraft is a literal game changer. I would even argue that Distant Horizons, or DH for short, made Minecraft the game it was supposed to be all along. Why do I think that? I'm glad you asked. Let me elaborate. There is this ongoing debate within the Minecraft community about how to keep a survival multiplayer server alive over long periods of time, which is nowadays called, as I've recently learned, a forever world. I think that switching from vanilla Minecraft to Distant Horizons is one of the possible answers to this conundrum. Our SMP server has been going strong for 4 years now. The core of our activities takes place in an area roughly 4,000 by 16,000 blocks, with a couple of limited scope projects further afield, and some expeditions that have ventured into the deep unknown beyond that. Upon installing DH on my machine and realizing what a potent mod this is, I immediately logged back into our multiplayer server. And in a sense, Distant Horizons made me see our world what it really looks like. I was experiencing the same heady feeling of amazement and wonder that I had when I leapt into the air within Elytra for the very first time. My mind was soaring, and I was overwhelmed by the urge to revisit all the different spots and places we discovered, explored, changed, terraformed and developed over the years, just to see what they would look like with DH. I was overcome by an urge to rediscover our vast forever world. And I for one think that wanting to rediscover your world is as good a strategy to keep it alive as you can employ. There is a plethora of reasons for me to not switching back from Distant Horizons, not least of which is how much easier it makes navigating, especially on larger worlds. If you are not traveling on well-defined paths or rails etc., finding your bearings in Minecraft can be a challenge. Chances are, when you venture long distance, you are navigating by looking at your coordinates, at least occasionally. Being able to use the coordinate system is probably one of the first things you teach yourself after you got lost on a map and never found your way back to base. It certainly was like that for me. Bringing up the debug screen to look at your coordinates, well, that always kind of felt like cheating to me. At the very least, it damaged my immersion into the game world. With DH, navigating by landmarks becomes feasible, as these can be visible for miles now. On our server, this has even led us to naming prominent landmark features, which further adds to the depth of the gameplay experience and your sense of belonging to the world you play on. I certainly feel more connected to the terrain with this feature, more immersed in the world. Navigating by beacons is even easier, as these are even more widely visible, especially at night. It's perfectly possible now to set up beacon color schemes to identify important points from afar to aid in navigation. Over the course of a couple of months, I built a skyscraper on our SMP server. One of the things that kept me going with this massive undertaking was me envisioning what it would be like to have a penthouse suite high up there, only to be underwhelmed when I eventually topped out. The thing is, the tower was so high that you could not even see the ground from the highest levels. So, what's the point? The higher apartments, and especially the penthouse, felt like any other room in any other house on the server. Distant Horizons now connects the skyscraper to the surrounding landscape, as you can really see a long way from up there, something that makes the penthouse suite a unique location on the server. Think about it, anyone on the server can build a luxurious apartment, but if you want that apartment to be the pinnacle of a skyscraper, well, then you will have to build a skyscraper first. Owning a penthouse on the top floor of a high-rise building is prime real estate, yet it never felt like it before DH. Anyone can and will build their dream house in Minecraft. Of course, it's one of the game's most appealing features that strikes a chord deep within us. Anyone can find a particularly nice parcel of land on the server where to build their dream house. And if you're really lucky, you might even get a glimpse of the surrounding landscape. But overall, our builds invariably felt like singular structures, each one floating on their own little island, trapped within the all too close horizon cast by the render limit of vanilla Minecraft. Enter Distant Horizons. Now the location of a build really starts to matter. Your choice for a building place matters. It's location, location, location. I think that this will completely change the way we decide where to build and how to build. The orientation of a building and the layout of a house will now be relevant to capture the best views. If you combine the edge with a shader, which you definitely should, you might even go so far as to taking into account the sun's path over the day and the different lightings cast on the landscape features surrounding your house. Builds now feel really connected with the surrounding area. More immersion in the game world leads to more appreciation of the beauty of the landscape. Switching to Distant Horizons had unforeseen side effects though. This is the Trapper Lodge in the Yukon region, about a day's travel by boat from our city. We built this as a kind of weekend retreat in this heavily forested area. You know, a place where you can go fishing and decompress from the hustle and bustle of the city. The lodge fits perfectly into the surrounding landscape, and the step from vanilla Minecraft to Distant Horizons improved this sense of connection further still, as you could previously hardly make out the mountain on the other side of the valley. Contrast this with this replica of the Breakers, a Gilded Age mansion built for the Vanderbilt family at the close of the 19th century. This building was one of the first collaborative large-scale projects we tackled, going back all the way into the Corona lockdown. With a large mansion like this, you would not be able to see much beyond the estate's perimeter in vanilla Minecraft, so the embedding into the landscape does not really factor into the build. Now, in Distant Horizons, the place feels off. I do not particularly like the landscape around it. The meeting of desert, mesa and forest biome makes the place look disjointed and frenzied. It's a far cry from the meticulously laid out parks one usually associates with and expects from a mansion like this. As I said, the location we choose for our buildings is much more important in DH than in vanilla. With a view of the surrounding area, I would even argue to switch the terrain generation to large biomes to prevent biome mashups and to fully embrace embedding of buildings into the landscape. Prior to Distant Horizons, it very much felt like your builds were on separate islands that would appear out of an impenetrable fog that perpetually shrouds your world. If all your builds sit on their own little islands in a sea of fog, that breaks the sense of continuity. It is like most of your world consists of liminal spaces. You know, spaces that you go through to reach other locations, but that you have no particular interest in dwelling in. In Distant Horizons, you no longer travel through liminal spaces to get to your target. Instead, you travel through a landscape that is worth visiting in its own right, for I strongly believe that Minecraft's procedurally generated terrain is just so beautiful to look at. A Minecraft world as seen in the Age feels so much bigger. There is so much more to explore and appreciate that, in my opinion, it adds a strong sense of belonging. This is your world. And I, for one, would like to be here forever. If there's one mod I would recommend wholeheartedly and without reservations, it's Distant Horizons. Sure, it's not perfect, as the developers are the first to admit, but the experience with DH is transformative. Combine it with a decent shader and you turn Minecraft into a whole new experience. I know, I don't want to come across as a snob. Decent hardware to run these mods on is not cheap. So if you're wondering whether investing that kind of money is worth it, well, then I hope that this video will help you a little with the decision. But the answer is yes, it's totally worth it.